Live. And hi, everyone. Thank you already for joining. If you're joining us live or if
Yay.
you're watching this later, my name is Jessica Ann. I am an author here on Substack. I have a novel out, but I also write a publication called Wildest Dreams. And a few months ago, myself and the story team at One Brilliant Arc decided to start doing indie author spotlights because we know how hard it is as an indie author to get your story out there, your voice out there. So we are doing this project as a way of giving back to the indie author community here on Substack. So I'm going to pass it over to Jaylon and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. So good to be here again and awesome to have Michelle here with us. My name is Jaylon Gunduz. I am one of the lead editors at One Billion Arc. We are a story studio that specifically focuses on amplifying the voices of marginalized creatives. And we're very excited to have Michelle here to share her story with us. So I will pass it over to her and let her know and let her introduce herself and tell us about what you write, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity. I
Of
think you
course.
guys have a great publication, and you're doing God's work. Come on.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
By that I mean, it's really hard for an indie author to just like get noticed. So I love what you guys are doing. So my name is Michelle Ray, and I have a publication on Substack called States of Matter, where I write about travel, I write about teaching. I was teaching abroad for 15 years. So I have a lot of experience with being international, being an expat, and I write poetry as well. And I'm kind of moving into the space where I'll start kind of coaching writers. I'm working on that as well. So, but I've also been writing a memoir for the past 5 years, and it is getting very close to publication. I'll definitely be publishing it in 2026. Um, it's with the proofreader right now, so getting really excited and starting to market and hoping for the best.
That's
That's
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
super exciting. I wanted to also shout out, thank you so much,
Yes.
Marlana. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
And Amelia, thank you so much. We're so happy to have you guys here and appreciate your support. Um, Michelle, I noticed that you said that you coach writers, and that's super neat because that's something that we do at One Brilliant Arc, and it's so interesting to see how holistic the journey of being an author is with every other story in your life that intersects. So how has writing stories impacted your real life story?
I mean, I've been a teacher for 30 years now, actually. I
Wow.
started teaching in
God bless you.
Yeah.
1997. I know. So teaching feels like more of like my identity than a
Mhm.
job. Um, but writing has always been kind of interwoven into my teaching and what I do. I think, when I was in college, I was a writer as well. Like I wrote poetry, I read poetry, bad poetry at poetry readings in the 90s.
Mhm.
And I really thought of myself as a writer in identity, but I never really tried to publish beyond just reading my work. Or
Mhm.
I would write emails, like when I lived abroad, I would write big mass emails to my friends and tell my travel stories that way. So I feel like I'm not quite sure what your question was. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, just how writing has impacted your real life story. I guess a lot of that comes from, we mostly talk with fiction writers, and it's really interesting the perception that there is that fiction storytelling is so far removed from our stories that we live in real life. So people have a hard time realizing that storytelling is all around us. It's not just in this imagination world.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, writing creative nonfiction, which is what I mainly write now. I'm actually getting an MFA in creative nonfiction.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll graduate in December. But creative
Awesome.
nonfiction is still,
Congratulations.
thank you. I mean, even though, you're writing nonfiction, you still have to concentrate on story. Like,
Mhm.
really, it took me 5 years to write the book. And the first 4 years, I was just writing about everything that happened, incidents in my life, this, that, and the other. Nothing was, it definitely wasn't any kind of story arc. But the last year is when I really wrote the book. That's when I found the story arc.
Mhm.
It's when I really started considering, the narrator as as me, but I started calling her the narrator. Like when I talk, I'm like the narrator this or the narrator that, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Isn't that you?" I'm like, "Yes, but it's not me now. It's me then. It's a different person back
Yes.
I
there."
think I honestly think that would be my most difficult thing with writing a memoir is like having that little bit of separation because like my life is still happening right now. How do I
Yeah,
just take this, chunk and be like this is the book, and not
yeah,
feel like it needs to keep continuing.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
curious
I
how you
mean,
did
I
that.
think. Well, I mean, I think if you're writing about more recent past, that is, you have that struggle, and I mean, I haven't really encountered that yet because I mainly write about like just more distant past.
Yeah.
But you really have to dig in. Like when I started writing the book, I was thinking more along the lines of like a travel log. Everyone was going to be interested in my story because my story is really interesting, right? Like I lived abroad for 15 years. I lived in Ecuador. I lived in the Middle East. And, but then as I really got deeper into it, I realized like, yes, that's the story, but that's like such a small part of it, like I had to go
Mhm.
so much deeper into like me as a woman, me as a human, me as an American, like how was I living and in those different spaces, and how did
Mhm.
the places where I lived and traveled really affect me and change me. And so I think it is tricky because you do have to kind of create a character, but it's it is you, and I mean, you have to make it you. Like you have to have a lot of integrity and just write your story as you know it, as you
Mhm.
remember it, as through your lens.
Yes, that's such a good point that the story that resonates most with us as humans is usually a lot deeper than you expect. So you start drafting, kind of looking at the surface level of everything, and then that writing coaching, like you really have to dig in and go on that
Mhm.
internal journey to find what really is at the heart of what makes your story, the story that only you can tell.
Mhm.
Yeah, because everyone has, and I think some people believe that your story has to be interesting, right? But
Mhm.
any one story, just the most not basic, but the most, I guess, common story can be really interesting. It just depends on how you tell it, what's going
Mhm.
on, how what's the internal landscape that's happening in the story. So
Mhm.
I'm working with people now. I call it story discovery. It's basically like helping people just to find these moments that they're little moments in their timeline. They're part of their history, but they aren't yet a story. And by
Mhm.
making them, shaping these moments into a story, they can not only process what happened to them and become more insightful about that. They can use that. They can use it in their
Mhm.
publications. They can write a memoir. They can use it in a speech. Like you can. It's like this little perfect gem that you can pull out at any time, and people will understand you better and they'll relate to it
Mhm. Yes,
because
Yeah.
everyone
yes.
has the same story, basically, right?
Yeah, this is true. That language of story structure is so intertwined with our real life,
Mhm.
and it's the universal language that we've used since the beginning of time to understand life and to understand each other. So
Hmm.
knowing how to speak that language, like you said, Michelle, it's a skill that you really need to practice because that's that's going to be what helps you to make those genuine connections and have that impactful
Mhm.
communication.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly, for sure.
I'm really excited that like you're talking about some of the stuff that we love to do here at 1
Yeah.
Billion Arc. So it's like
It
this
honestly
sounds
reminded me of like our first podcast
yes.
together. We talked about the hero's journey as a
Oh
story
Yes.
yeah.
structure, which I personally love so much. And so and as like, because I really feel like it's kind of like our soul's journey, or the human
Mhm.
journey, that we go through many times in our life. But like you said, you have this story structure that makes it relatable to people and relatable throughout time. Like, Joseph Campbell coined the term the hero's journey in the 80s, but or maybe a little before that. But it was, that's a story structure that's been in human culture and society for thousands of years. And so like that's how we relate to one another, is through story. So
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. And I
mhm.
mean,
Definitely.
I another reason I wrote the book is for me as well, because I was abroad, and particularly in the Middle East, which is the time period I'm writing about, for 10 years, right? So from
Wow.
2003 to 2013, I lived
Hmm.
in both Bahrain and Dubai. Um, but when I came home in 2013, I felt like I left part of me there, and I couldn't like explain who that self was to my new becoming self. And it was
Mm.
really hard for me to integrate all of the like my past experience into my life in
Hmm.
the US. And I think a lot of people can, understand that feeling as well. But I think one of the main reasons I wanted to write it is to really integrate the selves, integrate all of these disparate sort of parts of me and kind of make them all meet. Right. I
I
have
love
this,
that.
yeah. Well, I have this image, like, in your life, you have these certain stories that you tell, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the stories that you choose to tell at the, dinner party or whatever. So like some stories we just sort of trot out, like a prize pony, and we talk about, we laugh, we know it by heart. But other stories are like, you know, in the closet, bound and gagged. They're like prisoners. And that's not fair. Like, why can't the bound and gagged stories speak? Like, you have to
Mhm.
give those stories that aren't so, you know, flattering.
Hmm.
Mm.
Those are the ones that really have a story to tell, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was thinking when, I named my book. It's called Lessons Unplanned, right?
Nice.
It's the things
I
in
love it.
life that happen that really, that we aren't expecting, that really teach us, right? Listening to the
Hmm.
parts of yourself that you just wanted to shove down, and all the different
Yes.
ways that, we sort of interact and communicate with ourselves. So
Mm. That's so powerful.
Hmm.
Definitely that those different versions of yourself. I mean, writing in general, you know this as a writing coach, is so therapeutic because it forces you to give words to something and find the message and the meaning behind something that happened that otherwise just stays muddled up in your brain.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this
it's
act
so
of
hard.
writing is, yeah, it is. And having that, forcing yourself to reconcile those different versions of you throughout everything that you've lived through and experienced is so powerful. And I think that this book is very needed at this point too, because as a society, we like to build all these boundary walls
Hmm.
between ourselves. It's hard for us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes and experience someone else's lived experience as if it was our own. So we can have those boundary walls that come up, and storytellers really are empathy teachers because the storytellers are the ones who can help us to break down those boundary walls and start to live through a moment of life through someone else's eyes, through the
Hmm.
narrator's eyes, or through the
Hmm.
main character's eyes. And I feel like this book that you're writing is going to be so impactful for people to realize that even though we're separated by so many different experiences and none of our stories are the same, there are these moments of intersection that, like you said, they're unplanned. We never expected them, but that's what really connects us all as humans.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, when I opened the book, starts out in 2003, you know,
Hmm.
soon after 9/11, and basically a month after the second Gulf War started. I land in Bahrain,
Oh
which
wow.
is like
Wow.
in the Gulf. And so there were so many things I had to learn and unlearn. I really had to unlearn all the assumptions about the Middle East and about women's position in the Middle
Mm-hmm.
East, and it was really hard, but also really powerful. And I'm hoping that that's one of the lessons that people learn through the book. Like, I really do want them to see particularly women in the Middle East in a different light, but also
Mm-hmm.
just any new culture, any new situation. Like, you have to come in like on your back feet and really just observe and watch and listen and have an open mind. I mean, of course, my narrator did not do that. she she came like busted in like a typical American
Yeah,
and got into a
sometimes you learn the hard way.
yeah, I mean, she got into a lot of trouble, right? And that's, the book is interesting because of all the stupid shit she did. But um it's what she learns that's the most powerful, right? And it
Mhm.
spans 10 years time. So it's from 2003 to 2013. She lived in a few different countries. I lived in a few different
Yeah.
countries, and I spent a lot of time in India. And so I kind of went from, I say, an overage party girl to you know, I was a yogi. I was just a person that had started to understand herself, and that looking inward was far more useful, than
Mhm.
constantly searching outward,
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
find freedom or whatever I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Can I ask, like, without giving spoilers away for the book,
Yes.
what brought you there in the first place?
Well, I'm a teacher,
Okay.
so I was teaching in Kansas City. It was like
Mhm.
my second year of teaching. I was working at Wyandotte High School in Kansas City, Kansas, and a woman who she was my mentor. She had taught in Italy, and I was
Mm.
like, wait a minute, what am I what am I doing in
You're like, "Can I
Kansas?
go teach abroad?"
So she just kind of inspired me. I mean, I wasn't, at the time I was 26, and
Oh, wow.
I wasn't married or anything
So
like
you went
that.
by
So I was like,
yourself, essentially?
yeah. So I did, I just did some research, found a job in Guayaquil, Ecuador, which is like
Wow.
the most unlikely place to live for, like, that's not touristy at all. Like, no one speaks English, right? So, but it was such a learning curve. I would love, even to live those moments over again, like my first
Mhm.
years abroad, because you're just learning so much and it's so fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It definitely challenges that assumption that we all like to have as prideful humans, that our perspective of the world is the end all be all, and there's nothing
Mhm.
that we don't know or have a better idea of than
yeah,
anyone else. So
yeah.
that is
I mean,
definitely a
yeah, and it really humbled me as a person, but also as an American too. Like, you learn so
Mhm.
much about your
right.
own country when you live outside of it, and
Yes.
I mean, I think it's possible that you guys are too young for this, but so I think it was around 1998 or 99 when there was the whole scandal with Clinton and Monica
Oh,
Lewinsky.
no. I'm not too
And
young to remember that.
did I say old? I meant young. Um, so it was so interesting watching, like, Latinos, like, process that. They're like, I don't, what's the problem? We had a mistress? Like, what? They just, like, to them, it wasn't like, they didn't seem like a problem to them, let's
Yeah.
just say. So,
Oh,
that's just one example, but there's so many, like, cultural, um, conflicts that happen that really challenge you to
Mhm.
think a different way, and subtly affect you over time.
Yeah.
mm, yep.
Yeah, I actually have this not similar in terms of teaching, but I also in 2012, at the time my ex and I gave away everything we owned or and quit our jobs and just went to South America. We actually went to Peru.
Mm.
And we had a 5-month-old baby, which was
Oh,
crazy.
wow. That's
But
crazy.
we just decided we were doing like woofing, if you're familiar, where you like work on organic farms in
Yeah.
exchange for housing and stuff like that. So we did that, but very similar experiences in terms of what you're, saying in terms of just cultural, like being outside, like it's so important, I feel like, for Americans especially, to see other cultures and actually live in other cultures as opposed to just tourist, attractions and things
Yes.
like that, and really
Yes.
experience what it's like in the rest of the world. It's so important for individual growth, but also just that perspective that the
Yeah.
world is not US centric.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
exactly what
huge,
Sherry
and
just said.
how much,
Yeah.
like, I learned, I was breastfeeding at the time, and when I was in America still, I was really ashamed, honestly, to because I didn't have anyone near me that breastfed. I felt like I had to cover up. I mean, I was literally told by some people to cover up. So I had, and then I went to Peru, and there's just all these women just openly breastfeeding their children, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is how it's supposed to be. Like,
Yeah.
this is how life, like, this is how it should be. And it gave me so much more confidence. So it's just like having those moments. I mean, we're honestly like life changing for
Yeah.
me.
For sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, you can't, it's really, you can explain them, but you can't convey the
Hmm.
feeling. And I
Yes.
think that's what, the experience, like going abroad and experiencing life. I
Yeah.
always tell my students that because they're high school students. I'm like, just take a year off and travel. Like, it's not,
Yes.
college is always
Yes.
going to be there.
I think
But
everyone should do that.
yeah,
Yes.
And if not,
Well,
they can read your book, right?
there you
exactly.
go.
Or they can read my book and, learn a lot.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly what Sherry just said in the comments. You learned very quickly that the US is not the center of the universe. It's kind of, to me, I'm thinking of it as, um, writing forces you to go on that internal journey to
mm,
process everything and kind of um, reconcile some of the truest things about real life and the real you. And then traveling is a way to live that story
Mhm.
physically instead
mhm,
of just going on that internal journey. You go on that physical journey to discover and reconcile those different parts of yourself.
mhm.
So it is funny
Yeah,
because I'm just realizing now, like, I've always seen travel writers, and that's been such a huge uh, a huge career that I've seen people have, but I never realized that it's because traveling and storytelling really
Mhm.
do go hand in hand.
yeah, they do. For
Yeah.
sure. Because, I mean, a true travel writer is not just writing about the place, they're writing
Mhm.
about how the place is affecting them. Like, what is this place coming through their lens? And they're
Mm.
bringing out all of these universal ideas. And um, so it
Yeah.
is, they definitely go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah, I would say traveling too kind of pushes the story forward because it forces you to
Mm.
be in uncomfortable places. It forces you to grow. It like you can't, I think a lot of people you can get in the habit of just living like day to day and kind of mindlessly.
Yeah.
But like when you're traveling, all of a sudden you're like, everything is new. I have to be aware. I have to be awake. And I mean, honestly, I love the feeling of like it's scary, but it's like the butterflies in your stomach, and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen next. At least I love that
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
traveling, especially alone.
Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. You have to be very present. And that
Hmm.
that just creates a this level of energy, and excitement in your
Yeah.
life because you're like paying attention,
It's real. Yeah.
to
You're really
yourself. Like,
living.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I think one of the other things I try to focus on in the book is that just the idea of reckoning and finding those like life patterns because
Mm.
um, I repeated a lot the same mistake a lot, and
Yeah.
every time I did, I would just kind of like berate myself. I had no empathy, no self empathy or compassion
Mm.
whatsoever.
Mm.
And I realized that writing this book, when I wrestled with these scenes where I was just so mean to myself, like what was I doing? But so there's that, and then just I think everyone has a reckoning where they see like, oh my gosh, there are these patterns in my life. These are lessons I'm supposed to have learned, but it takes as long as it takes for
It
you to
does.
learn them.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's no shame in having to see the same mistakes repeated. And I think that life is more like the spiral, where you
I say that
continue.
all the
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Oh.
and because that's part of the reason why I always had this sort of shame and difficulty integrating my past is because I did some things like that were very like they wouldn't be really accepted in the life I was in at that moment trying to live, right? So
time.
I think
Mm.
in order to integrate, you have to forgive yourself, you have
Mhm.
to let things go, and yeah, you just have to accept. There's just a whole lot of
Mhm.
acceptance that has to take place.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
for
Learning
sure.
to love that narrator, right?
yes,
Yes.
I love
And all
narrator.
the
I love her.
mistakes she made.
Yes,
It's
this is
so
so
much
great.
harder than it sounds.
It is,
Speaking of
Yeah,
lessons learned, though, Sherry was also sharing the lesson that she learned. She's living currently in the Dominican Republic. She said, I
that's
had to
right.
really let go of hustle culture and learn to slow
Mm,
down because the locals here don't sweat anything. Time really is not a construct here. I had to
mm,
learn to be still. I thought I was going crazy. It was so slow moving. That's definitely something that I think we all need to
mm.
learn because, yeah, the US and hustle culture is so toxic.
It is.
Yeah,
Especially for us as creatives. Like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
forget who said it, but one of the best quotes that I've heard is in order to be a writer, um, the only thing that you have to do is to pay attention to every scar and remember exactly how it feels. And I
Mm,
feel like that being present, that paying attention, and then being able to put words to the little minute things is that's the gift that creatives have. That's the gift that storytellers have.
mhm,
And hustle culture really takes away from that very necessary part of a creative's world and process.
mhm.
Um, I've also
yeah,
felt the like I'm going crazy just trying to be still because I can't stand just listening to myself. I can't stand
Oh
myself.
man.
So
See,
it's
I would happily give away a lot of the devices, like sometimes. So once a year, my partner, it should be more often, but it is what it is. But once a year, we do what we call a '90s weekend, where
yes.
we rent a cabin and we don't turn on we have no internet, no Wi-Fi, no, like, I mean, we have, like, technically have phones, but we're not on them, things like that. And we just have a weekend where it's very slow and very quiet, and it's really awesome. And I think more
yeah.
people
It's
need that.
so
I need more of that
yeah.
in my life.
Yeah, it's so necessary because all this, the hustle culture has shifted the focus from the process to the product. Like we're all
Yes.
Mm,
so in a hurry to create something and sell it and show it and this and that. Like,
Mm,
but what about the process? Like the process of becoming, the process of writing something.
mm,
It's that's what's really meaningful. I mean, the product is
yes.
always meaningful as well. I mean, that's what people read, and but the process
mhm.
is necessary. And if we're just rushing through it, number
Yeah.
one, the product isn't going to be as good, and two, we're not enjoying it. Like we're not growing,
Yes.
we're not learning from it. So
Hmm.
Yeah. So
And like
that's
you said, yeah, like you said, Michelle, having the like, you're telling this story years removed from it because
mhm.
it took you that long to be able to, uh, introduce those parts of yourself and start to
yeah,
understand them. So
yeah,
it is that process is so important, and it doesn't go quickly, and that's where the real magic is. So we need to learn
hmm,
how to honor that for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
was saying,
think
like,
time.
normalizing slowness and like quality over quantity. I would love it if, like, we just all shift our culture that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Because
Yes.
sure.
I'm tired of making Instagram videos daily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have
Yeah.
to. Like that's what you don't have to. You just do what
Exactly.
is coming from the
Yeah.
inside.
Mhm.
And I mean, I do personally believe that, like, we have everything we need within, and like we're a package deal. We don't need to reach for anything other than
Mhm.
looking and seeing the external world triggers us and makes us change. But we really are complete humans
Mhm.
and individuals. So
I love that.
sorry, good philosophizing over here.
Yeah,
but
no, I love
but
it.
I don't know. Did you have another question about the writing, or did you ask me?
Yes, I did want to ask who you hope to reach with this story because it you have a lot of you have 10 years worth of lessons that and experiences that you're sharing in this book. So who exactly do you think will benefit the most from hearing those things from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the book is really for women. I mean, the ideal, like, target audience, I guess, is sort of like middle, the women in the
Mhm.
middle. Maybe the
Mhm.
women in the middle that wish their life would have gone a different way, like wish they would have taken a different path, or still have stuff in their life that they need to work out, right? maybe they still have those selves stuck in the closet that that they need to like release. But also teachers, I think teachers would really enjoy the story because I worked in these high schools where mostly I interacted with local kids, and I
Mhm.
learned so much from them. Like I have so many scenes in the book where I'm, teaching the kids and they're teaching me, and there's just that interaction is really meaningful. And I think teachers or anyone that works with kids, like whether they're high school kids, would really enjoy that. But I think just anyone, I mean, really what the book is at its heart is it's a coming of age story. It's an
Mm.
adult coming of age story. I mean, I was 33 when I moved there. I mean, I was 32. So I was clearly an adult, but I was pretty immature. It was like dog years for me, I was like, so yeah, it's everyone has these experiences. I was like outwardly seeking, I was partying hard, I was not respecting the boundaries, and it just got to a point where you know, I guess the climax,
Mhm.
these multiple situations that I just realized like something had to change. And yeah, and they did it. And the book ends, nothing's perfect. Like, I think that's what's great about nonfiction is that the book ends, nothing is really tied up per se.
Mm.
It
You
just
you
keeps
do need
going.
to, yeah, I mean, you do, I feel like you need to tie something up for the reader, like at least show that your narrator has come to an understanding
Mhm.
about whatever it is that she's been searching for or seeking, whatever in the book. um but but yeah, it's I don't know, I was not
That's
sure what the question was. I keep forgetting the question.
No, that was great.
that's
I
great.
have another question about
Sure.
so now that you have it almost written, it's at the proofreading stage. Do you have a plan for, getting it out there, a launch? Do you have a date yet? I don't know where
Yeah,
you're
I
in
don't.
the next
Yeah,
stage of the process.
yeah, I don't have a date, but I do have kind of a marketing plan.
Mhm.
I think I'm sort of at the stage where I'm really leading into my platforms like Substack, and I'm kind of trying to put together like a little group of people, my marketing team,
Mhm.
people that
Yeah.
like have a platform to help me like once I have all the marketing material that I'm going to create. And I think the best marketing is really just people like reading the book or reading my work and telling
Mhm.
other people. So
Mhm.
I'm
Yep.
really trying to get that out and to get it out to all the communities where I lived, because
Mm.
there's a lot of people that I think would enjoy the book that live in Bahrain, would they can't have.
Oh shoot.
Oh, is it gonna connect
Oh
again?
no. I think
We'll
we can't
see.
hear you, Michelle. Oh no.
We'll give the internet a second to
Yeah.
gather itself. We're talking about,
Yeah.
slowing down and unlearning hustle culture, and we are now forced to do that. And we're
Yes,
not
we
gonna
are.
feel awkward about it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michelle,
Oh,
you
sorry.
try
Did I
again.
Okay.
did
Oh, you're back.
You're
did
good.
Okay.
oh, okay, good. Maybe that was my fault because somebody was calling me, even though I have it on Do Not Disturb. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
I
It,
love when
believe me.
notifications go by the do not disturb. That's always so great.
Yeah. If we can just put a shout out to Substack to be able to do these Substack lives on our desktops instead of our phones.
I know, I know it will. I'm sure
Um,
it'll be soon. It'll
It
be soon.
will.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
but
yeah,
yeah,
that was my biggest fear of self-publishing, because I, like your other author, what was her name? Ashley, is that her name?
Hmm.
yep.
The last one I read, like she talked about, she actually queried her book. I didn't query mine. Oh gosh, I'm stuck. I see
Nope,
that I'm
you're good.
stuck.
I
Oh
can't
no.
hear you
Oh,
still.
Yeah.
You're good.
oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So I, like Jessica, decided like I'm not going to even query, because number one, I wanted to have full control of my
Hmm.
story, and two, I just heard from every corner of the world that memoir is like impossible to sell unless you're famous. So, and I'm glad I did, but that is like having no true distribution is definitely the biggest setback, or the biggest challenge, I guess.
Hmm.
Mm. That was kind of leading into my next question of,
Mm-hmm.
you've you've done this writing coaching and now you're in the unique position of having to almost coach yourself through the writing process. And it's always
Mhm.
so different when you think that you know everything in your head because you've been coaching other people, but it's so different when it's yourself now. So, what was the hardest challenge in the writing process? And I mean, you kind of answered in the publishing process, but in the writing process, what was the biggest challenge?
I mean, I think in the writing process, it was, just to continue to dig deeper and
Hmm.
deeper because I mean, I edited quite a bit, and I look back at some of the scenes or some of the chapters that I thought were good, and I was willing to like publish those, and I'm like, wow, I'm so glad. And not because it was bad writing, but because it just wasn't as deep as it needed to be. There was so much underneath that
Mhm.
that not only makes the story richer, but I think it will help people like connect to
Yeah.
and understand their own issues. Like I wasn't just people have this idea in their head like if when you're a woman living abroad, like you're just out there and it's all life's this big adventure, but it wasn't all the time. It was hard.
Hmm.
It was lonely.
Yeah.
I dealt with a lot of hard stuff, like most people do in life, but I had to get to that level to make it uh, like to really, I don't know, make it worthy, I guess,
Mhm.
make it
Hmm.
worthy of the reader and me, the author.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you've already had such of the way that you're talking about your story and sharing it so honestly is already resonating with a lot of people. Sherry especially said she loves the theme, because she feels as women we're always coming of age at different seasons, which is so true. It's always
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, for
like
sure.
you both said, it's a spiral. It's always
Yeah.
a
This is
journey.
like my third coming of age now as a
Yes.
50-year-old woman.
Same.
Yes. I
Yeah.
kind of
So
have the unpopular opinion that every story is technically a coming of age story because it's always a journey of becoming. So,
that's true.
I,
Yes.
It might be
yeah.
right.
I could
Um,
see that.
yeah. Well, as we're wrapping it up here, do you want to let the audience know where they can find this book and follow the publishing process so that they can read more about your story once it
Sure.
publishes?
Yeah. So I'm not sure the publication date yet, but it definitely will be in 2026. And you can follow me on Substack. So it's, Michelle Ray. My Substack is called States of Matter. And I also have a website. It's called bymichelleray.com. So you can look at that. It's pretty new. So go there. Let me see some
Yay!
traffic there.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah,
Mhm.
and once it's published, this is what the cover is going to look like.
Oh,
Ooh.
it looks so pretty. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
lesson unplanned: a decade of teaching, travel, and transformation.
I
That's
love
the book.
it. That's an awesome cover already. So
Thank
yeah, we'll
you.
definitely
Yeah.
link those links below for people to follow you because I mean, like you said, it's a journey. It's not just the
Mhm.
finished product. So
Yes.
people I think will get even more value from following the journey and
Yes.
seeing the becoming as much as just reading the finished product.
Yeah, for
So
sure. And I landed on this cover because I did a survey, and I had other covers, and I put it on Substack, and people voted, and that was like,
Oh yeah.
they voted, and of course I would have just chosen really the one I wanted, but a lot of people voted for this one. So
Yeah, that's how I came up with the title of my book. So
yeah, I
I
mean,
also
it's so
put
like involving your community is really important, I
yes.
think, and people want to help. They want to give
yeah.
their
Yes.
input. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I that's a great piece of advice I tell a lot of like new writers or people trying to is like let people come along the journey because so many people I think hold that stuff, internally until it's like really ready to be shared with the world. But I'm like, no, people want to cheer you along and they want to feel like they're part of it. And so like that's such a great idea to interact with people in that way
yeah,
as you're working and getting the book out there.
yeah, and it's
Yes.
smart
For
too
sure.
because you're reminding them without saying, "My book's coming, my book's coming."
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
a different way to
Yeah.
say it and a different
Mhm.
way to involve people. I mean, and it's also sincere, right? It's not
Oh,
Yes.
just
for sure.
performance.
For sure. that kind
Yes.
of authentic marketing and community is where it's at. But also just as far as stories go, no matter if we're writing a fictional one or a non-fictional one, or whether we're still living our own story, stories aren't meant to be carried or walked through alone. I think that that's another thing that we're missing in American culture is people think that you have to kind of bootstrap your way and do it on your own.
Mhm.
We've lost that value of community where we're
Mhm.
not supposed to be walking through our stories alone. We're not supposed to be reconciling with our stories alone. Um,
Mhm.
so I
Yeah, I
love
agree
that.
with that.
I love that you're leaning into that and kind of
Yeah, for
showing the
sure.
way for other people too. Yeah.
Mhm. Very important. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. You're doing
Mhm.
amazing work, and we're so grateful that you took the time to be here with us. Thank you, everyone who watched and shared your thoughts and shared your stories too. It means so much to us. It really makes these times even more magical because, I mean, again, it's that sharing the stories and, walking beside each other. And Substack is just such a beautiful community for that reason. So
It
thank you
is.
all so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for the work you do. I appreciate
Yeah.
of
it.
course.
We'll
Well,
be
thank you
excited.
again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excited for when the book comes out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you'll
Yay!
hear about it.
Yes.
Yay! Awesome.
Great.
Well, we'll see you later, everyone. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.